Behind every perfect smile lies a story untold. Behind every picture-perfect marriage, a hidden storm can rage. Tonight, we dive into the shocking downfall of America's most beloved little couple, Bill Klein and Jen Arnold. Behind closed doors, there was a secret so devastating that it tore their marriage apart. Yes, you heard that right. According to confidential sources, Bill Klein became entangled in nearly $500,000 of debt through online gambling platforms. Not only that, he kept pressuring Jen Arnold to pay off his secret $500,000 debt. As Bill Klein failed to repay the debt, a lawsuit was filed against him, and he was subsequently arrested. According to the court's verdict, Bill Klein has been sentenced to 6 months in prison. With this truth exposed, the situation turned even more tragic. Under constant mental pressure and facing numerous problems, Jen Arnold eventually had no choice but to divorce Bill Klein. Later, to start a new life, she engaged a man named Cody. This is not just a story of debt and divorce. This is the tragic unraveling of a family America thought they knew. From the moment TLC introduced Bill Klein and Jen Arnold to the world, they became instant fan favorites. Their show, The Little Couple, wasn't just reality TV. It was a window into resilience, love, and the pursuit of happiness despite challenges. Standing barely 4 feet tall, both Bill and Jen had faced medical and social hurdles all their lives. But together, they showed that love truly knows no bounds. The cameras followed them as they built careers, navigated adoption, and created a home filled with laughter and warmth. Fans admired their positivity. They looked like the couple who had it all: love, success, family. But as millions tuned in, something darker was happening off-screen. Behind Jen's tireless smile as a neonatologist and Bill's quick jokes, stress began to build. The glitz of television masked the cracks forming in their marriage. What fans didn't see was Bill's growing fascination with online gambling platforms. It started innocently: late-night games, small wagers, the thrill of winning quick money. But like many tragic tales, what began as fun soon spiraled into a dangerous obsession. As months turned into years, his secret life of online gambling grew, and with it, so did his debts. Small bets turned into big ones, until one day the figure hanging over Bill's head was no longer a few thousand. It was nearly $500,000. Bill tried to hide it. He smiled for the cameras, attended family events, and told Jen nothing at first. But secrets have a way of growing heavier with time. Eventually, Bill began leaning on Jen, not for love or support, but for financial rescue. Jen, already under the stress of her demanding career and motherhood, suddenly found herself facing a reality she never expected: her husband begging her to bail him out of nearly $500,000 of secret gambling debt. The perfect couple America admired was on the brink of collapse. Bill Klein's gambling habit could only remain a secret for so long. At first, it was little white lies, explaining away missing money, shrugging off late-night sessions on his laptop, or brushing off Jen's questions about unusual bank charges. But the numbers didn't lie. Jen Arnold, meticulous by nature, noticed discrepancies in their finances. Credit card statements showed suspicious payments to unfamiliar platforms. Savings accounts that were supposed to grow steadily instead seemed to vanish month after month. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Jen confronted Bill. "Bill, what is going on with our money?" she asked, her voice calm but edged with fear. Bill hesitated. His usually quick wit and easy humor failed him. Under the weight of Jen's gaze, he cracked. "I owe some money, Jen, but it's not as bad as it looks. I can fix it." But as Jen pushed, the truth spilled out like water breaking through a dam. Bill wasn't just a little behind. He wasn't just in some debt. He had amassed nearly $500,000 in unpaid balances, spread across credit lines, online platforms, and borrowed cash. Jen's world came crashing down in that moment. The man she had trusted with her heart, the father of her children, had not only gambled away their financial security, but had hidden it from her until it was too late. She sat in silence, unable to process the betrayal. Bill, desperate and ashamed, pleaded with her. "Jen, I just need your help. If you cover it, I swear I'll change. Just this once, please. For the kids, for us." But Jen knew better. This wasn't just a one-time mistake. This was an addiction, one that had now entangled their marriage in lies, secrecy, and danger. The perfect couple America adored was now facing a $500,000 nightmare. When debts go unpaid, creditors don't remain silent forever. What Bill thought he could manage with excuses and promises soon escalated. The online gambling companies and private lenders began pressing harder. Emails turned into calls, and calls into legal notices. Jen begged Bill to face reality. But Bill, drowning in shame, avoided the truth until it slammed into them like a wrecking ball. A lawsuit filed in court. The amount demanded nearly $500,000. The case gained attention, not because Bill was a celebrity, but because his name was tied to the little couple. Suddenly, tabloids whispered about the perfect husband who had gambled away his family's fortune. The day of the court hearing was one Jen would never forget. Cameras swarmed outside. Reporters shouted questions. Inside the courtroom, Bill stood pale, defeated, and trembling. The judge, stern and unsympathetic, listened to the evidence. There was no escape, no miracle. The verdict was swift. Bill Klein was found guilty of failing to repay his debts. His punishment, 6 months in prison. Jen sat in the gallery, tears streaming down her face. She wasn't crying only for the man she loved, but for the collapse of the life they had built together. The news spread like wildfire. Headlines blared. The little couple's Bill Klein sentenced to prison over gambling debt. Jen Arnold faces husband's secret $500,000 scandal. What had once been a story of triumph over adversity had become a tragedy of betrayal, addiction, and downfall. And for Jen Arnold, this was only the beginning of the darkest chapter of her life. When the judge announced Bill Klein's sentence, 6 months behind bars, Jen Arnold felt her world collapse in slow motion. For years, she had carried the weight of her family on her shoulders. As a respected neonatologist, Jen wasn't just saving the lives of fragile newborns at the hospital. She was also balancing motherhood, filming obligations, and the pressures of being in the public eye. But now, instead of coming home to a supportive partner, she was left alone to pick up the pieces of a shattered marriage. The children, still young and innocent, didn't understand why Daddy wasn't coming home. Jen tried her best to shield them, but every night, their questions cut her heart deeper. Where's Daddy? When is Daddy coming back? She wanted to protect them from the truth. But how could she? The truth was everywhere, on TV, on social media, in every magazine headline. Friends and colleagues reached out, some with sympathy, others with whispers of judgment. Behind closed doors, Jen suffered in silence. She was overwhelmed. Mentally, emotionally, financially. She had tried to hold her marriage together, but the lies, the debt, the betrayal, it was all too much. Bill's pleas from prison only deepened the wound. He wrote letters, begged her to wait, promised he would change. But for Jen, the breaking point had come. She realized she could no longer carry the burden of a man who had nearly destroyed her life. For the first time, Jen Arnold, America's symbol of hope and strength, began to consider the unthinkable: divorce. Filing for divorce was not easy. Jen had built her entire adult life around Bill. They were partners in love, in parenting, in fame. Walking away felt like ripping out a part of her soul. But the damage was irreversible. Trust, once broken so completely, could never be rebuilt. In court, Jen's quiet dignity contrasted with Bill's desperation. He begged her not to go through with it. He reminded her of their years together, their children, their victories against life's challenges. But Jen had made her decision. "I can forgive mistakes," she told a close friend privately, but I can't live in a marriage built on lies. The divorce was finalized quietly, without the cameras that once followed their every move. To the outside world, it was shocking news. Fans who had admired them for years struggled to accept it. Social media exploded with grief, anger, and disbelief. But for Jen Arnold, it was the only path forward. She walked away not because she wanted to, but because she had to, for her sanity, for her children, and for the chance to rebuild her life. Yet, even as she tried to move on, the scars of betrayal followed her. Nights felt longer, the silence heavier. She had freed herself from the wreckage of Bill's gambling, but she had also lost the man she once thought would be by her side forever. It was the end of an era. But little did the world know, for Jen Arnold, it was also the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with unexpected hope. For Jen Arnold, the divorce was both devastating and liberating. In one sense, she felt an enormous weight lifted off her shoulders. The lies, the financial nightmares, the constant anxiety, those chains were finally broken. But the silence that followed was deafening. The cameras that once followed her every step had long gone quiet. Her evenings, once shared with Bill's humor and their children's laughter, were now spent alone. At work, Jen remained the same brilliant, tireless doctor. She smiled for her patients, offered comfort to anxious families, and maintained her professionalism. But inside, she was still healing. Her closest friends noticed the change. She was quieter, more guarded. Yet beneath the scars, they also saw something new in Jen: resilience. She wasn't just surviving, she was rebuilding. For the first time in years, Jen began to focus on herself. She traveled, spent more time with her children, and leaned on her circle of trusted friends. Slowly, her heart, once shattered, began to mend. But as often happens when least expected, love found its way back into her life. It was at a medical conference that Jen first met Cody. Unlike Bill, Cody wasn't a man tied to fame, cameras, or the pressures of a reality TV audience. He was quiet, steady, and deeply respectful. A professional in his own right, Cody understood the demands of Jen's world as a doctor. But more importantly, he saw Jen for who she truly was: a woman of strength, compassion, and grace. Their first conversation was simple, about medicine, about family, about the challenges of balancing work and personal life. But something clicked. For Jen, it felt refreshing. Cody wasn't asking her to fix his problems. He wasn't hiding secrets. He simply listened. Over time, their friendship deepened. Phone calls turned into dinners. Dinners turned into late-night talks. And soon, Jen found herself smiling in a way she hadn't in years. Her children noticed it too. For the first time since the divorce, they saw their mother laugh, really laugh. Still, Jen was cautious. After what she had endured, she wasn't ready to jump into another commitment. But Cody was patient. He didn't push. He let Jen set the pace. It was in that patience that Jen found comfort. Months later, after countless moments of shared trust and growing affection, Jen realized something she never thought possible. She was falling in love again. And this time, it felt safe. For Jen Arnold, love had always been a complicated journey. With Bill Klein, she had believed in forever. She had fought alongside him through health scares, adoption struggles, and fame. But betrayal had stolen that dream. Now, with Cody, things felt different. Their relationship was not built on television contracts, cameras, or the need to prove anything to the world. It was quiet, intimate, real. Cody admired Jen's strength, but unlike Bill, he didn't lean on it to cover his own flaws. Instead, he supported her. He listened when she was tired, held her when she cried, and celebrated her victories without jealousy. For Jen, who had carried the burden of a broken marriage, this felt like a rebirth. Even her friends noticed the glow returning to her face. They often teased her, whispering, "Jen, we haven't seen you this happy in years." And her children, the center of her world, grew close to Cody as well. He didn't try to replace their father, but he offered stability, something they had desperately needed after the chaos of Bill's downfall. As months passed, what began as cautious companionship blossomed into deep affection. Jen realized she wasn't just moving on from her past. She was writing an entirely new chapter of her life. It was a quiet evening when Cody finally asked the question. There were no flashing lights, no red carpets, no cameras, just the two of them, sitting under the stars after a long day. Cody turned to her, his eyes steady, his voice calm but full of emotion. "Jen," he said, "you've been through so much. But through it all, you've stayed strong. You've inspired me, and I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Jen froze. Her mind raced back through the pain of her past, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the divorce. But then she looked at Cody, at the man who had been nothing but patient, kind, and trustworthy. Her eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Yes, I will." It wasn't just an engagement. It was a declaration that despite everything she had endured, Jen Arnold still believed in love. The ring symbolized more than a promise. It was hope. Hope for a fresh start, for healing, for a future built not on lies and secrets, but on trust and truth. News of the engagement spread quietly at first, but when fans eventually learned, the reaction was explosive. Many celebrated Jen's courage to move forward. Others, still loyal to the memory of Bill, were shocked. But for Jen, it didn't matter. For the first time in years, she felt free. And with Cody by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. When the news of Jen Arnold's engagement to Cody finally became public, it spread like wildfire. For years, fans had seen Bill and Jen as symbols of hope, perseverance, and true love. Their story had been broadcast into millions of homes. Viewers had cried with them, celebrated with them, and built a bond that blurred the line between television and reality. So when the fairy tale crumbled, when gambling debt, prison, and divorce entered the picture, fans were left divided. Some supported Jen wholeheartedly. She deserves happiness after everything she's been through. Cody is the blessing she needed after all that pain. Others, however, were critical. How could she move on so quickly? Wasn't her marriage to Bill supposed to be forever? The internet became a battlefield of opinions. Blogs, tabloids, and fan pages dissected every photo of Jen and Cody together. Was she smiling too soon? Did she betray Bill by finding love again? Jen ignored the noise. She knew the truth. The years of betrayal, the weight of debt, the loneliness of holding a family together alone. But the backlash was real. For the first time, Jen felt the sting of not just personal heartbreak, but public judgment. And as she tried to move forward, a shadow from her past was slowly re-emerging. Because while Jen was building a new life, Bill Klein was stepping out of prison. 6 months may not sound like a long time, but for Bill Klein, prison felt like an eternity. The man who had once lived in the spotlight, admired by millions, was reduced to a number behind bars. Gone were the cameras, the laughter, the applause. In their place, cold walls, strict routines, and the weight of his own guilt. Bill had plenty of time to think, to regret, to wonder how he had let $500,000 in online gambling destroy everything he had built. But when he finally walked out, the world he returned to was not the one he had left. Jen was gone. His children were distant, still confused by his absence. His reputation was shattered. His career, once full of promise, had crumbled under the weight of scandal. Reporters were waiting, of course. They wanted his side of the story. But Bill had no answers, only apologies. The hardest blow, however, came when he learned of Jen's engagement. The woman who had once been his anchor had found another man. Friends say Bill was devastated. Some claimed he felt betrayed. Others said he knew he had no one to blame but himself. But one thing was clear. Bill Klein was no longer the beloved husband and father America thought he was. He was a man trying to rebuild from the ashes of his own mistakes. And whether the world forgave him or not, his story was forever changed. For Jen Arnold, the most painful part of the entire ordeal wasn't the debt, the lawsuits, or even the divorce. It was watching her children navigate a storm they never asked for. They were too young to understand the complexities of addiction, money, or betrayal. What they did understand was simple. Their father was gone. First, because of prison. Later, because of the divorce. At school, whispers followed them. Teachers tried to shield them, but classmates repeated what they heard from their parents. "Isn't your dad in jail? Why doesn't he live with you anymore?" The children carried questions they couldn't put into words. Why did daddy leave? Why did mommy cry at night? Would their family ever be whole again? Jen did her best to protect them. She sat them down, explained gently, and reassured them they were loved beyond measure. But she couldn't erase the pain. Bill, for his part, tried to reach out after his release. He wanted to rebuild a bond with his children. But kids remember. They remember broken promises, long absences, and unanswered questions. And now, with Cody slowly becoming a steady figure in their lives, they were torn between two worlds: the father who had let them down, and the man who was helping their mother stand tall again. It was a fragile balance, one that Jen managed with grace. She never spoke ill of Bill in front of them. But deep inside, she knew her children would carry the scars of this chapter forever. Despite the pain, there was also healing. Jen and Cody's relationship blossomed quietly but firmly. They didn't seek the spotlight. They didn't try to prove themselves to the world. They focused on building a foundation, brick by brick, day by day. For Jen, it was refreshing to be with a man who didn't see her as a lifeline, but as an equal partner. They shared simple joys, cooking dinner together, helping the kids with homework, walking hand in hand after long shifts at the hospital. These weren't glamorous moments, but they were real, and they were exactly what Jen needed. In time, Cody became more than just Jen's fiancé. He became a friend to her children, a source of calm in a household once shaken by chaos. There were challenges, of course. The shadows of the past loomed large. Public scrutiny never completely faded, but Jen stood strong, supported by a man who loved her without condition. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream again, not of survival, but of happiness. She had closed one painful book. Now, she was writing a new one. And with Cody by her side, Jen Arnold was finally ready to step into a future she could call her own. For years, Bill Klein and Jen Arnold represented hope. Their love story inspired millions who believed that despite life's obstacles, true love conquers all. But as the years unfolded, the truth became far more complicated. Bill's addiction, his $500,000 debt, and his prison sentence revealed that even the most picture-perfect marriages can crack under pressure. Jen's divorce, followed by her engagement to Cody, showed that survival sometimes means letting go, even when it breaks your heart. To some, their story is a cautionary tale about secrets, gambling, and betrayal. To others, it is a reminder that no one is perfect, not even those we admire on screen. Yet for all the tragedy, there is also a message of resilience. Jen Arnold emerged stronger, showing the world that even in the darkest times, there is always a path forward. She proved that love can be found again, that healing is possible, and that new beginnings are worth chasing. And though Bill Klein's name will forever carry the weight of scandal, his story stands as a stark warning about the dangers of addiction and the cost of hiding the truth. Together, their legacy is not just one of heartbreak, but of lessons learned. So what do we make of it all? A marriage once celebrated on national television, destroyed by $500,000 in gambling debt. A beloved husband turned prisoner. A strong wife forced to choose between love and survival. And finally, a new man, Cody, stepping in to help rebuild a life once shattered. The story of Bill Klein and Jen Arnold is not just about fame, fortune, or failure. It's about the fragile nature of trust. and how quickly everything we hold dear can be lost. But here's the question I leave with you tonight. Was Jen right to walk away from Bill and start over with Cody? Or should she have stood by her husband, even after the lies and the debt? And what about Bill? Does a man who lost it all deserve a second chance? Only you, the viewers, can decide. Because in the end, this isn't just their story, it's a mirror held up to every relationship, every secret, every choice that defines our lives. More update. Dr. Jen Arnold recently reminded fans of the deeper reason why people truly choose to stay home, emphasizing family, safety, and the importance of cherishing meaningful moments. At the same time, she shared some uplifting news, announcing the exciting premiere of The Little Couple, which brought joy and anticipation to her followers. Meanwhile, Bill Klein has been open about his latest health updates, candidly addressing the challenges he is facing. Alongside these personal stories, Jen also expressed her disappointment over the lack of inclusivity in certain areas, stressing the need for greater acceptance and understanding in today's world. I will explain everything. Dr. Jen Arnold reminds people why they really stay home. The Little Couple's audience adores Dr. Jen Arnold. She is an indispensable member of society, not only as the adoptive mother of Will and Zoey, but also in the medical sector. She has achieved great success as a neonatal physician. Given her history of cancer and other health issues, she may be considered to be at high risk for contracting the coronavirus. At this point, she emphasized the genuine reasons why everyone should remain indoors during this pandemic. Dr. Jen shared some coronavirus facts on her Instagram on Monday night. Specifically, she brought attention to the real reason we stay at home. According to her caption, "The most critical time in our lives to stay at home," she wrote with a photo of herself and her daughter Zoey. "This is so we can keep each other healthy," she went on to explain. She made the statement, "It's not just about ourselves. Not only that, but it's for our parents, grandparents, and all of our extended family members." The old saying about the little couple is, of course, totally accurate. But as everyone knows, students went to the beaches in Florida not long ago, and many of them expressed their complete indifference to the illness on social media. Nobody else but themselves, parents, siblings, friends, and everyone else must have slipped their minds. But many of her fans have wondered why Jen isn't visiting the sick, because they think she talks about her family and herself, which is an important service. Dr. Jen never once said that she was staying at home, as is evident from her correspondence. Maybe she meant to say all families that have a breadwinner as she spoke. However, a number of supporters had a valid concern. "Have you ever had to show up for work at the hospital?" asked one individual. "You have to work at the hospital, don't you?" asked someone else. "Ensure your own safety." Although many others have asked comparable questions, Jen has not yet answered. No one knows if the little couple's Jen Arnold stays at home or keeps working at the hospital. Conversely, parents' worries about their children getting the virus are recognized on the facility's website. "Our staff has received training on infection prevention and safety protocols, and we are in contact with local emergency management officials regarding our readiness," said the company. "We updated our visiting rules and added more information on the coronavirus. Whether Jen stays at home or keeps working at the hospital is something her fans will undoubtedly learn about in due time." The little couple Jen Arnold shares exciting premiere news. The lead actress of The Little Couple, Jen Arnold, shared some exciting premiere news with fans this week. Along with sharing some great news that is coming up soon, she gave everyone an update on her life. Read on for more and to find out how to tune in. There are a lot of people who have been waiting for The Little Couple to come back on TLC. Since the last fresh episodes aired in September 2019, viewers are ready for more. However, the renewal or cancellation of the show has not been formally declared by TLC. The Arnold Kleins appear to be completely in the dark about the show's future. Jen had other projects and TV shows to attend to at the same time. Her quest to find the perfect New England farmhouse for her family of 4 was featured in an episode of Farmhouse Fixer, a home remodeling show on HGTV. She was accompanied by Bill Klein. Hey, guess what? Just around the corner is another premiere. Boston Children's Hospital has been incredibly supportive of Jen's podcast, which she has been working on nonstop. The big premiere day is coming up soon, but she did mention it in passing before. The proud mother of 2 just posted to Instagram to share the wonderful news that their new podcast will be launching this coming Tuesday. In her subsequent remarks, she expressed her excitement about hosting pediatric professionals who would help both her and her audience raise healthy children. Regardless of the podcast app you use, I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe to Boston Children's Answers, Kids Health. According to her, lecturers from all throughout the campus will be featured in each episode. Along the way, she has picked up a lot of knowledge on a variety of relevant areas, including screen time, sleep, injury prevention, and more. Jen was really excited about the chance to host her first podcast and promised to be receptive to feedback from viewers and listeners after the episode aired. The little couple star is passionate about sharing her experience as a pediatrician and is dedicated to helping other parents raise healthy children. Fans are captivated by Jen's latest venture, even if they remain hopeful for the revival of the TLC show. Further, one advocate praised the pediatrician's proposal, calling it a great idea. A third individual chimed in with, "I am so excited. Look for solutions to a lot of problems. Looking forward to it eagerly." Another fan of Jen's gushed, "I am absolutely thrilled about the new podcast. From the very beginning, I have been an ardent admirer of your remarkable family. Boston Children's Answers, Kids Health is Jen's newest podcast. Watch the premiere episode air on January 24th, Tuesday. Is Jen Arnold's podcast something you intend to listen to? Is there still a chance that the little couple might return to TLC?" The little couple Bill Klein updates on latest health issues. Bill Klein, who was in the little couple before, has had a rough go of it with his health. He continues to update his admirers despite his seeming terrible condition at the moment. The fans of TLC naturally hope that everything works out for him. Included in this week's report was the devastating medical record he attained. Finally, what was it? Read on to discover the answer. The former TLC star had to undergo some severe surgery, but one of the procedures was unexpectedly funny. It was around this time 2 years ago, after he scared a nest of wasps. He ridiculed his injured elbow and said his legs forgot how to run. Thus, his face slammed against the pavement. Also, procedures he had endured when he was a kid came flooding back to him. Viewers of the little couple also observed that Bill Klein's surgery to fix his arm was delayed. In light of the widespread concern over the COVID-19 pandemic, the procedure was dubbed elective surgery. His wife, Jen Arnold, gave him x-rays and updates. Receiving his arm mended must have been a tremendous relief. Bill recently had to undergo scans once more, and this time things weren't funny. Dr. Jen Arnold broke the news to her fans over a week ago that her husband needed to be admitted to a New York hospital right away. After a short trip from Boston, they were just waiting to find out what was wrong with him after multiple scans. She made it seem like he had a spinal problem in her piece. Problems with the skeleton are prevalent in smaller people. TLC viewers started to have faith that everything will be okay. Jen, who was formerly of the little couple, wasted no time in breaking the news to her fans that Bill was in the hospital. She let him know 3 days later that they were still waiting for the scan results. Unfortunately, doctors still couldn't figure out what was wrong with the individual, despite how much pain he was in. She made the comment, "There are a lot of scans ahead," when interviewed. Having said that, they were hoping that Boston, rather than New York, may be their host. On August 18, Bill, a fan of the little couple, made an Instagram post that his followers noticed. The number of scans was greatly exaggerated by Jen. Bill took the comical attitude in an effort to seem courageous again. He wrote, "This is me grinning before I go in for my record-beating 5 NRIs. This evening, the previous record is 3 in one sitting. It's almost as fun, but cheaper than a Disney Fast Pass." Do you find it shocking that Bill Klein is going to have an unprecedented number of magnetic resonance imaging NRI scans? Do you want the doctors to figure out what's wrong with Will and Zoe's dad as soon as possible? Jen Arnold disappointed by lack of inclusivity. Little couples Jen Arnold took to social media to express her disapproval to her fans. Regrettably, the shocking absence of variety profoundly angered her. And where did Jen wind up? What were the reactions of the supporters to this situation? For the complete account, continue reading. Jen is quite vocal about raising dwarfism awareness on social media. She takes great effort to notify her followers on Dwarfism Awareness Day through her social media posts. She utilizes her platform to spread important messages while also educating and motivating others about various disabilities. She has a lot of wisdom to impart as a pediatrician. On Friday night, Jen addressed the little couple's fans on Instagram and spoke frankly about the lack of diversity she experienced tonight. She claimed to have attempted a pedicure and shared a selfie of herself online. She had anticipated this time off to recharge. However, she faced an obstacle due to the absence of variety. According to the former TLC star, it was disheartening to find out that Minilux at Chestnut Hill was unreachable. You can't use the elevator to get to the lower floor pedicure area. Customers with disabilities should be informed about this so that they are not charged a cancellation fee in the event that they are unable to receive their service. Jen did compliment the wonderful staff despite her bad experience. On the other hand, refunds are likely not their responsibility to pay for. On top of that, they likely can't do anything to change the presence or absence of an elevator. Below, you can view her post. Her admirers are venting their displeasure with the situation in the comments section of her post. It breaks the hearts of many that she had to cope with this. Some find it strange that there is a lack of diversity and equity in 2023. Was it true that they wanted money from you because you couldn't use the stairs? Questioned an angry fan. I can't stand it. Use ada.gov to file a complaint if you feel your disability rights have been violated. She is also receiving encouragement from others to file a formal complaint. Those who went out of their way to comment on the manicure salon's Instagram page begged the business to be more kind and to apologize to Jen. This story has a good chance of becoming viral because the TLC star has over 1 million Instagram followers. I'm crossing my fingers that this issue is resolved and that Jen's tale brings about empathy and transformation. How shocking do you find Jen Arnold's story of exclusion to be? Did you think it was a good idea for her to post about what happened to her fans? No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments. And stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.